Welcome back to Cask and Point. Today we're reviewing Found North Batch 10. Now if you don't know much about Found North, I have done a review on them already where I tried Batch 9, their previous batch, and I put it up against two 150 plus proof Canadian whiskeys, so check that out if you're curious. But today we're doing Batch 10. Now, Found North is most well known for their batch products, which obviously they've done 10 of already. They source some really old Canadian whiskeys, they blend them all together to make this amazing concoction, and so far, I've been really happy with what they've been doing, and they're really rising in popularity, so really interested to see where the brain will go. They do have a few one-off releases like Helldiver, like Peregrine, and they do have also some single barrel products that I've seen, but I haven't tried any of those other than Peregrine, which I also did a review on that is on my website if you want to go check that out. But today, it's Found North Batch 10. Now, Found North Batch 10 is a blend of 2 parts of 23-year-old corn whiskey, 1 part of 19-year-old corn whiskey, and those 3 parts are going to make up 66% of the blend. They then have an 8-year wheat whiskey that's making up 29% of the blend, and then the last 5% is a malted barley 9-year-old whiskey. So, really interesting here. I have this all on my cheat sheet. It's 123.8 proof, and this is a sample from a good buddy of mine named Jose, so thank you so much, Jose, also known as Smokey Bear. Really appreciate the support, and let's get right into seeing just how good this Batch 10 really is. That's interesting. So, on the nose, there's definitely a lot of maple. It smells really sweet. And there is a little bit of corniness on this, like some sweet corn. Really nice. Like a really sweet, like kettle corn on this. And there's a good amount of dark fruit on this. Some plums, primarily. A little bit of maraschino cherry. And then there's a good amount of oak presence on this. There's also a ton of vanilla and a little bit of that sweet oak. Overall, though, it smells really nice. Let's try it. Whew. First sip of the day. So that definitely hit harder than it probably normally does. But man, that's really good. So it starts off with that sweet corn, that kettle corn, and that like caramelized corn, caramelized popcorn, whatever you want to call it. Really nice stuff. And then it gets a little bit more into the plum, into the oak, into the vanilla, into the maple. That's a really pleasant pour. Now, Batch 9 was about $150 MSRP. I assume Batch 10 was about the same. And it's pretty interesting what they did with the marketing because on previous batches, they made, the age statement really important. So on Batch 9, it said 19 years. It was very prominent on the label. Batch 10, they made it even more prominent, but it's an 8-year because the youngest whiskey in this is 8 years old. And so legally, that's the year that they have to report as the age statement. So I'm not really sure why they decided that they would be so prominent about an 8-year age statement on this, but definitely tastes way older than 8 years, even if it's Canadian whiskey. Really delicious stuff on this. Not a ton of like old musty oak because, 20-year-old Canadian whiskey is like, 8-year Kentucky whiskey basically. But man, there is a lot of depth of flavor there. Clearly some really masterful blending here. Let's take a second sip. Yeah. So in the mouth, it's really sweet. And it's really maple and that like caramel corn in the beginning. Those are really the most prominent flavors. It's then going to ease into some oak and some fruit, primarily plum, but really nice there. And then there is like a caramel that will stay with you throughout the pour. Definitely some vanilla on that. Definitely some sweet oak on that. A little bit of pepper, really towards the end, but not much. Definitely not getting really any rye spice on this. I mean, it's a mix of wheat, corn, and malted barley. So I'm not surprised that we're not getting that. And I'm not exactly sure who's producing 23-year-old corn and allowing people to just buy as much as they want of it. I'm not sure if this is some huge Canadian company that I'm just not aware of, but pretty interesting that they're getting such old stock here. But really interesting developments here. I mean, this is definitely going to be in the 8s for us today. It's very delicious. It's very much worth MSRP. Now, secondary on this is likely going to be around $225. I haven't really seen it on secondary a ton. From what I've heard, I'm assuming it's between $200 and $250 just because that's kind of where all the other batches have sat. And this is very good though. I am trying to think if I like this more than Batch 9. Batch 9 was very different. Batch 9 gave me a lot of tropical fruity flavors like pineapple, whereas this one, and like coconut as well, this one is giving me much more of like a corn flavor, a sweet corn, like about the fair, and enjoying some like sweet corn, some like candied green apples with some friends. Very enjoyable. Let's take a third sip here and then we'll give it a rating. It's delicious. It's delicious. A good amount of depth of flavor on there. Maple that's really dominating throughout the pour on this one. Really nice, really pleasant. And definitely some vanilla, definitely some sweet oak, definitely a lot of sweet corn in the beginning that then turns into this fruity plum, a little bit of cherry, not a whole ton. That's really nice. And there's even some berry notes on there, like a blackberry and a blueberry later on in the pour. I say the finish is medium. I think this is a good amount of flavor. Definitely drinks 123 proof. Definitely feeling it. Definitely doesn't taste like an 8-year 123 proof Canadian whiskey. Like definitely clear that there is older whiskey in this. I believe them entirely. Very, very good stuff. I think today I am going to rate this an 8.3. I think on the first try, it is better than batch 9. Not by a whole lot, but it's really, really good. And those standard wheat flavors of like vanilla, of kind of like a sweet corn that I typically get on a lot of wheated whiskeys, that is much more prominent here. And I tend not to be a huge wheater fan, so I think other people may even like this even more than I do, and I'm rating this an 8.3. So it's absolutely delicious. Definitely go out and get yourself a bottle of this. Totally worth the money, totally worth it. Really, really good stuff. Thank you so much, Jose, for sharing again. But that's the review. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll catch you all on the next one.